안녕하십니까. 금일 수브라마냠 자이샹카르 인도 외교장관의 국립외교원 공개 강연에 오신 귀빈 내외 여러분들께 다시 한번 감사의 말씀을 드립니다. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Once again, welcome to KNDA Public Address by His Excellency Subramaniam Jaishankar, External Affairs Minister of India. My name is Ji Soo-ok, a researcher at KNDA. To start off today's special event, I would like to invite the Chancellor of Korea National Diplomatic Academy, Park Chul-hee, for his welcoming remarks. So please give him a big round of applause.
Good afternoon, everyone. Dear Honorable External Affairs Minister of India, Dr. Jaishankar, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, let me express our warmest welcome to India's External Affairs Minister Jaishankar, who graciously joined us as a distinguished guest speaker at the Korea National Diplomatic Academy today. It is indeed a remarkable privilege that Dr. Jaishankar has made time in his demanding schedule in Korea to visit the KNDA for a public address. India's significant role in the international community is undeniable, and Foreign Minister Jaishankar is widely recognized as a leading architect and respected practitioner who is implementing India's grand strategy. The remarkable rise of India is widely acknowledged, with the countries worldwide recognizing India's growing influence in every corner of the world. In its pursuit of becoming a global power, India hosted the G20 summit meeting in 2023. India is unquestionably a key member of the Quad alongside the United States, Japan, and Australia. The concept of a free, open, inclusive Indo-Pacific is founded on the conception that India stands as a crucial partner in addressing both regional and global issues. Additionally, India has formed a grouping known as the I2U2 with Israel, the United States, UAE, and India has joined initiatives such as IMEC, India, Middle East, Europe Economic Corridor. Not only does India participate as a member, but plays an active role in organizing the BRICS meeting as well. India is a member of the Shanghai Cooperation Organization. Moreover, acting as a bridge between global North and South, India is highly regarded as by the countries in the global South as a very reliable partner for collaboration. Thus, due to the aforementioned reasons, I'm convinced that India's diplomatic endeavors are truly comprehensive, flexible, and wide-ranging. I particularly appreciate the conceptual differentiation proposed by the Foreign Minister Jaishankar, highlighting that India is a non-Western country, yet not anti-Western country. This enables India to maintain flexibility in foreign policy approach. I have a strong admiration for India's pragmatic way of managing external affairs rather than adhering rigidly to ideological preferences. Similar to India, the government of South Korean President Yoon Suk-yeol is also trying to overcome lingering assumptions and anxieties from the past. Instead of becoming excessively entangled into Korean peninsula issues, the Yoon government aims to transcend them and engage with the broader international community with a practical mindset. Under the banner of a global pivotal diplomacy, South Korea aspires to position itself as a significant global player as well as a pivotal actor in advancing freedom, peace, and prosperity across the world. Under the previous administration, South Korea rejected the idea of joining the Indo-Pacific Initiative, opting instead to maintain strategic ambiguity. On the other hand, the Yoon government is exerting maximum efforts to align to promote a free, open, and inclusive Indo-Pacific. Also, the Yoon government is fully committed to making due contributions to the Global South aimed at enhancing the quality of life improving governance system, and facilitating capacity building for their people. As both India and South Korea pursue foreign policies grounded in realism and pragmatism, this leads to several commonalities between the two countries. The shared diplomatic principles and directions between India and South Korea brings us together as close and friendly partner in addressing a broad spectrum of international and regional issues. Furthermore, bilateral ties between India and South Korea can be upgraded across multiple domains through the adoption of common strategies, alignment of shared interest, and the coordination of the policies. There is no doubt that the External Affairs Minister Jaishankar consistently occupies a central role in India's grand strategic endeavors and the sophisticated diplomatic undertaking. Foreign Minister Jaishankar is renowned not only as a strategic thinker and experienced architect of strategies, but also as a best-selling author and eloquent speaker on comprehensive international issues within the global diplomatic community. That is why I am genuinely delighted to have him here today at the KNDA. In a moment, the External Affairs Minister Jaishankar will deliver a special public address titled Broadening Horizons, India-Korea Partnership in the Indo-Pacific. So without further ado, please welcome the Honorable External Affairs Minister of India, Dr. Jaishankar. Please.
Chancellor Dr. Park, distinguished guests, dear colleagues. It's a great pleasure to speak to you today about India's partnership with the Republic of Korea, one that is acquiring greater salience in a more uncertain and volatile world. Our ties have been described as a special strategic partnership since 2015. This is not just a phrase, but an assessment to which we have tried to live up to since then. In different domains, cooperation has expanded and benefits are visible. Yet, this is also a time to introspect and strategize how we could be doing more by doing differently. The frequency and intensity of contacts is one way of judging any relationship. In recent years, Prime Minister Narendra Modi and President Yoon have met twice, as I did with my previous counterpart. Many of you would be aware that Prime Minister Modi has in fact been to the Republic of Korea himself twice, once in 2015 and once in 2019. Trade is another metric of judgment. And this today between us is roughly around the $25 billion plus minus level. Companies of both countries have made significant investments in the other. We note that your Economic Cooperation and Development Fund has committed to 2 significant infrastructure projects in India. The Sovereign Wealth Fund, KIC, has also opened an office in our country. Our defense cooperation recorded a success in the joint efforts of Hanwha and Larsen & Toubro, and we each have a community in the other country, about 15,000 in our case and somewhat less in yours. Now, this succinct summary of our current state of ties is certainly useful information, but more important, it indicates how much potential still lies ahead for us to realize. A full picture of our ties also requires an understanding of its political dimensions. We are both democracies, market economies, and believers in the rule of law. Our modern history holds some parallels, and both of us have paid the price of events beyond our control. In recent years, challenges like terrorism and WMD proliferation have impacted our national security. We have learned to be sensitive to changing currents of the global order. While our solutions may be suited to our particular national circumstances, working together has always been to our common advantage. The reasons to do so are obviously the mutual gains in that regard, but such aspirations, while having a value in themselves, are even more important when set against the contemporary context. In essence, my case is that India-ROK partnership is significant, but even more so when we look at its impact on the Indo-Pacific. Why is that? Let us start by examining the landscape. The Indo-Pacific emerged as a consequence of geopolitical shifts in the last few decades. Till then, American strategic dominance kept the Pacific separated from the Indian Ocean as a theater. This was meant to assert a certain primacy of interest in the former. Where the Indian Ocean itself was concerned, the focus was much more centered around the Gulf. However, as challenges changed and capabilities were stretched, a more cohesive effort was needed, not only in respect of its own resources, but working with more partners as well. This period has therefore not only seen a revision in strategic concepts, but also a more open approach to global collaboration. You see that, for example, in an American willingness to establish the Quad. The perspective of a country like India is naturally somewhat different. In our case, our interests were steadily extended as part of the Look East and then Act East policies. The consolidation of ties with ASEAN and a strong grounding in the East Asia Summit architecture allowed us to explore ground further beyond. The results of that are visible with the ROK in Northeast Asia and with Australia to the south, and with a number of countries in between. India's stakes in terms of trade, investments, services, resources, logistics, and technology in the Indo-Pacific are growing by the day. Ensuring the stability, safety, and security of this region is therefore vital for us. We have an obligation to the global commons, just as we have a duty to do global good. As the idea of Indo-Pacific took root, many nations, groupings, and organizations examined it from their particular vantage point. The ASEAN, the European Union, the Indian Ocean Rim Association have all articulated their outlook. So too have individual nations in Europe and in Asia. The East Asia Summit has even launched an Indo-Pacific Oceans Initiative in 2019. It was noteworthy that the Republic of Korea, after careful consideration, also released its Indo-Pacific strategy in 2022. My understanding is that it envisages a free, peaceful, and prosperous region based on three principles of inclusiveness, trust, and reciprocity. This certainly creates the basis for working more closely with like-minded partners. Now, why is it important that we work together? Part of the answer lies in the opportunities of the emerging world, especially those pertaining to new technologies. But some of it also refers to the stability and the predictability of the international economy as a whole. We are therefore impelled by both national interest and global de-risking. To appreciate that, let us consider the factors of current volatility. In the last 4 years, we have seen the global economy and even global society devastated by the COVID-19 pandemic. Quite apart from the damage that it wrought, it completely disrupted the flow of goods and services. Thereafter, we are witnessing two conflicts that are still ongoing, one in Ukraine and the other in the Middle East. The latter has spread to the Red Sea, threatening maritime shipping between Asia and Europe. Climate events are another variable that we need to cater for because they will happen increasingly frequently. The world cannot be sanguine about such shocks in the future. On the contrary, we have to prove ourselves by creating redundant, reliable, and resilient supply chains. Trade and supply chain diversification is one aspect of such endeavors. I understand that the ROK has a 30-50 strategy in that regard. The point is that our efforts, individually or together, can make a difference to the larger picture. Now, the same calculations also apply in large measure to the digital domain. But there is the added factor of trust and transparency as well. Data privacy and cyber security are increasingly crucial concerns for nations as much as for individuals. It is not enough to come up with reactive steps or preventive firewalls. There are structural solutions that are based on trusted vendors and trusted geographies. We have to recognize the imperatives of strategic trade and adjust our policies accordingly. So how do India and ROK respond to this evolving scenario? First of all, by recognizing that the world is moving towards greater national production and strategic autonomy. They may call it by various names in the US, in China, or in Europe, but believe me, the underlying commonality is very clear. Debates in this regard are sometimes confusing by painting extreme scenarios of decoupling. Don't let it cloud the reality that in certain critical areas, partnerships would now be forged with much greater caution than before. And many more capacities will be built at home. We are two countries who are politically and economically well aligned to do so. My second argument in this regard to changes underway in India. For a variety of reasons, we in India did not give the importance that we should have to manufacturing and technology development in the past. That started to change in 2014 with the Modi government and has gathered steam over a decade. It is supported by vast improvements in infrastructure, innovation, education, and skilling. This has now enabled us to embark on a Make in India initiative in various domains. Such collaborations would not only facilitate our partners' access to the Indian market, but also to use us as a platform for global production. In short, the growing efficiencies of India are on offer as an attraction to Korean businesses. This is certainly worth consideration if you look at the growth prospects of India. We have rebounded robustly from the COVID period and are on track to become the third largest economy in the next few years. Along with that, if you look at the innovations underway, the startup culture, the number of unicorns, there is a strong case here for greater focus and attention. All of us know that we are now entering the world of AI and chips, of battery and electric mobility, of space and drones, of clean and green tech, and of critical minerals and resources. Much of the world's strategic calculations revolve around these domains as they are perceived to provide the edge in the times to come. A common element of all of them, however, is human resources. Not just resources per se, but skills which are readily available in a prepared manner. The world is waking up to this challenge because this is also one of trusted talent in many areas. Already, we are seeing considerable delays in critical projects in different geographies on this account. Not coincidentally, we in India have been approached by many more OECD members with requests to conclude mobility partnerships. India, of course, has its own semiconductor mission, as it does initiatives in many other new and emerging technologies. Our expectation is that even within a few years, a very different, larger ecosystem will take shape in India in this regard. I'm sure that it will create more possibilities for collaboration between India and the Republic of Korea. Conversations about the international economy naturally focus on production, on consumption, and usually on technology. Here too, a recent addition to the agenda has been the importance of connectivity. This is relevant for two reasons. One, that new production and consumption centers are not always as optimally connected as their capacities justify. And two, because historical linkages have been effectively disrupted during the era of imperialism. As a result, the world faces the challenge of creating the new while reviving the old. Recent initiatives in this regard have naturally reflected the changed economic standing of global players. From India's viewpoint, it is essential that there is a lateral connect all the way from the Pacific to the Atlantic that passes through our country. This could well take shape when the IMEC, the India, Middle East, Europe Economic Corridor initiative, gathers pace to the west of India, in the Gulf, and beyond. And as the trilateral highway connects India all the way to the Vietnam coast. A very different but also intriguing possibility is the opening of the polar route from Asia to Europe. The Chennai-Vladivostok corridor is an effort to explore that option. As these and other corridors come into being, their logistics and mobility implications will be studied carefully. I believe that this too can have a beneficial impact on our bilateral cooperation. As two significant G20 members, India and ROK have a growing responsibility to actively contribute to the reshaping of the global order. The era when a few powers exercise disproportionate influence over that process is now behind us. Willy-nilly, it has become a more collaborative and broad-based endeavor. That multilateralism has also stalled, and being replaced in good measure by plurilateralism is a factor as well. Issues like countering terrorism or WMD proliferation, or indeed ensuring maritime safety and security, do matter fundamentally to us. We have also seen opportunity in initiatives like the Indo-Pacific Economic Framework or the Minerals Security Partnership. In crucial domains like digital delivery or clean energy, our national efforts have points of convergence. Let me add here that even as we seek to strengthen our bilateral ties, there are a number of international initiatives in which our shared participation would certainly contribute to the bilateral facet of our relationship as well. If I were to give some examples for ROK as an important trading country, maritime security is a very, very vital concern. We in India host a fusion center which is built as a result of a number of white shipping agreements with different partners. where you actually have a common operative picture across the entire Indian Ocean. Similarly, ROK's participation in an initiative like the Indo-Pacific Oceans Initiative, which looks at a range of oceanic issues from ecology and environment to transport and science and technology, would, I think, be a very valuable addition. Or if I could refer to a completely different domain, as a country which has been very active on climate issues, for ROK to make its presence felt at the International Solar Alliance, which India had proposed along with a few countries at COP21, which today has more than 100 members, I think would be a very positive development. In fact, as climate events occur with greater regularity, ROK's contribution even to disaster resilience, and we have again an initiative called the Coalition for Disaster Resilient Infrastructure, would be something which would be greatly appreciated. So I give these examples as a way of illustrating that one way of also deepening our relationship is for us to be present in similar organizations or shared organizations with common goals. And that too would reinforce what hopefully would be a deeper bilateral relationship. Now, to realize our potential, a challenge that I have flagged already, it is important we intensify our engagement in different spheres. Certainly, we need more political discussions, more strategic conversations, which is why I am here. We need stronger business connects and technology interactions. The long pending review of our CEPA must be expedited so that it can be upgraded. We will have to identify more intersections and meeting points that work for both of us. We will also have to be more collaborative, recognizing the strengths that we each bring to the table. Today, we are all contemplating the prospect of a re-globalization that would be very much shaped by emerging technologies. That gives our two nations the opening to progress ourselves while contributing to a better world. I am confident that by broadening our horizons, the India-ROK partnership can emerge as a significant factor in the Indo-Pacific. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Minister. Now, we will proceed to the discussion and Q&A session. And I would like to invite Chancellor Park to take the floor.
Thank you. As always, I learned a lot from your insightful comments. And then I'm very much impressed by your speech, especially you touched upon more of non-traditional security issues, including economic security and cyber security and others. Also talked more about, of course, today's topic is more about the bilateral enhancement of the relationship, but touching upon all the regional and global issues, which is a kind of opening a new horizon between the two countries. But I just wanted to ask a kind of a question, not directly related to your speech today, but I'm always impressed by Indian way of strategically engaging other countries. Very flexible, very pragmatic, and comprehensive engagement of the global countries. So we have the expression, as you say, that we have to cooperate among the like-minded countries. But we in the world, we have some countries of different minded countries. But still, if I look at the Indian practice, you have a very flexible engagement of not only the United States and Western countries, but also the Russia and then the Global South and then the Southeast Asian countries and Middle East. So what is the secret? How can you manage all this, the diplomatic affairs very flexibly like that?
Yeah. First of all, thank you once again, Chancellor, for the opportunity to speak here. So, your question, if we are all more inclined to work with like-minded countries, how do you work with so many more? I think if you like the world, you have more like-minded countries. So we like the world. You know, we look at different parts of the world, and I think the natural instinct for us is to find something common there. You know, so there would be parts of the world where, you know, and each one is one facet of our personality or our character. So there would be countries, let us say, where being a democracy, being a market economy would be a connection. There would be countries where in a post-colonial world, you know, having gone through a colonial experience, let us say with a large part of the global south, would be a connection. There would be countries where there might be something in our history. You can apply this to regions, let us say in Central Asia or the Gulf. There would be cases where we actually might, over a period of time, we have built habits of cooperation because our interests have harmonized over a period of time. So think of it in a way like a person, you know, a country like a person. If you want to have the optimal existence, you know, you want to be on good terms with as many countries. Ideally, you know, they say the best diplomacy is a zero problem situation. Now, in real life, nobody gets a zero problem outcome. But if you can minimize the number of problems, you can find more and more points of commonality with countries. And if you take very, I would say, measured and balanced positions, then what you do is you can make your position known, but in a way in which you have also kept further options open. So it's a you can say it's a kind of an attitude or a way of doing things. So my Prime Minister today, he tells us, you know, our objective is to have us as we have a term in our own language called Vishwamitra, being a friend of the world, you know, make as many relationships and even friendships as possible. In real life it works, let me tell you.
You talked about the importance of maritime security in the Indo-Pacific. As you just said, as a trading country, Korea has lots of stake in securing the maritime security and then SLUC. And then Korea is increasingly committing itself to contributing more to the maritime security in the whole region. But as you have said that, is there any part that you wanted to expect that the Korea play some more role in terms of the Indo-Pacific Ocean Initiative or the general maritime security issues?
You know, I would put it this way. I would certainly flag, which I did today and which I'll be doing again tomorrow with my counterpart, why it would be useful for India and Korea to cooperate more closely in maritime security, both bilaterally as well as in some agreed formats. And I'll give you an example. You know, today we have a threat to shipping in the Red Sea and in the Gulf of Aden. Okay, my country has deployed 12 warships in that region. We've been very active in providing cover and courage to shipping there. We've had cases where ships have been taken over by pirates and the Indian Navy has boarded it and rescued it in a way. Or ships have been hit, tankers have been hit by missiles or drones, and in some cases, you know, our people have actually gone and put out fires, brought the ship to port. Now, this is possible because while we have our 12 ships, there are many other navies operating there. Okay. And we have a mechanism today for a kind of a coordination so that people not just don't get in each other's way, but they can optimize the result, because the problem we face is a common problem. So my case would be to our Korean partners that getting into arrangements where there's a common picture, where, because none of us will have the resources to actually ensure security and safety beyond a point. We are all going to be able to take one piece of the problem, one situation, one set of concerns and address it. If we want the entire region, the Indo-Pacific, all the way from your shores to our shores and beyond to be safe, then we are better off pooling and working together. Now, two proposals here which might be of interest, I think, to our Korean partners. One is we actually operate a fusion center outside Delhi, where a number of countries have deputed officers. Information from white shipping agreements from a large number of countries come in. These are integrated in a common operating picture, and everybody gets the benefit of it. Now, we today get a similar benefit from something like that in Bahrain, where we have deputed an officer. A second example I gave was this initiative we had called the Indo-Pacific Oceans Initiative, because there are different aspects to the ocean that we need to be careful about. There is a problem of IUU fishing, there's environmental issues, there's plastics, there are transportation connectivity issues. Now, this Oceans Initiative, we tabled it 4 or 5 years ago at the EAS Summit. It actually involves 8 different streams. We've requested countries, could be members of EAS, could be outside, saying, please take the lead and, let's share best practices, let us find ways of understanding each other's concerns. Because what has happened is, the era when there was some master organization in the world and we all plugged in and said, here are my concerns, please give me solution, that's over. We need more self-help groups in a way. The self-help groups won't be universal. So that's where the like-minded comes in. Here, certainly for us to India and ROK to work together in more such formats. I mean, even our relationship will get the benefit of working together. Whenever I've looked at a group of which we've been a member, I can tell you our bilateral relationship has improved, also as a result of being a member of that group.
Wonderful. In that regard, I fully agree with you about your point that ultimately human resources are very much important in enhancing all the collaborative projects between us. And when you talk about the human resources in 2 countries, we have excellent people. When I was studying in the United States, all the very good students in the medical school, in mathematics and chemical engineering were Indian students. And the Koreans are doing very well. So then you talk about the human resources and mobility program. Do you have any specific sector you have in mind? Well, of course, we have to increase all the sectors. But for example, when you talk about the human exchange between Korea and the United States, why don't you focus on the STEM, the science and technology, engineering and mathematics? So that's the kind of priority than other areas. So when you talk about human resources exchange and then the mobility program between India and South Korea, do you have some sector in mind, or is it general practice?
No. I mean, let's look at today factors of production. What can slow down growth? What can hamper technology development? Definitely, human resources is one factor. And the reason for it is very simple. It is that global demographics is very uneven. Now, I think different societies and economies are going through their particular versions of it. And the paradox is that with prosperity, naturally the demographic challenges grow. I mean, this happens to all of us. It's beginning in some ways to also express itself in India. Now, when I look around the world, this is sort of not so much a Korean point as a global point. There are three broad categories where we see demand. One, at the highest level, if you look at talent, the skills, the STEM, and a country which has benefited perhaps most of all in this regard is the US. The US through the H-1 visa scheme actually was able to get a lot of STEM talent from many countries, but most of all from India. And this has been very, very critical to the competitiveness and to the technological advancement of the United States. Now, this was more an American issue, but is now becoming more a global issue. I see in Europe today that the same STEM demand, which was so strong in the US, is now growing in Europe. So in the last year, we have actually concluded a lot of mobility agreements with countries like Germany, Austria, Italy, Portugal, France, UK, mainly because of that I would say demand-supply gap there. A second is in the service sector. That there are many services today which require at the end of the day human interventions. And the trained personnel are simply not there. This is particularly true of the medical and healthcare field. A third is actually the blue collar segment, that there are many industries, construction. We've just concluded an agreement with Malaysia, which is largely focused on the construction industry in Malaysia. And again, if one looks at the Gulf, you can see category 2 and category 3. But now increasingly, as the Gulf is looking at non-fossil alternatives, even category 1, that these are there in very, very large numbers. So in India, in a way, we are today preparing our own people for the global workplace. When COVID happened, it was actually, even for us, surprising. It was a discovery of how many Indians were living and working abroad, because in many cases we had to bring them back. Even I would say within probably the first year, we brought back, I think, more than 7 million people who were living and working abroad at that time. The idea that today employment is essentially within your national boundaries. I think as technology changes, as this demand supply, the demographic technology mismatch is there. If we are to find a collective solution, my sense is mobility agreements are a very important answer to that.
Thank you. I cannot monopolize Minister Jaishankar, so I will open the floor. Even though time is limited, I can collect a couple of questions and then, I will give a chance to the junior diplomats first, because as the Chancellor of the Academy, I wanted to give the privilege of asking the question first to the junior diplomats. Okay, Tabin, you have a question?
Thank you, Mr. Foreign Minister, for the great insights shared today. I feel very honored to be here. My name is Davin Choi, a diplomatic candidate in Korean National Diplomatic Academy. So I have one question to ask. In the current era where economic security is important, what do you think is the key economic security issue that India and Korea should prioritize for cooperation in areas such as global supply chains, digital economy, or advanced technology? And furthermore, who do you think are the countries beyond India and Korea that we should collaborate together in that area? Thank you.
If you don't mind, let me collect a few questions. Who else? All right. Okay, Hyunjin, you have a question?
Thank you. My name is Hyunjin Kim. I am a diplomatic candidate in the Korean National Diplomatic Academy. I appreciate your insightful lecture, Mr. External Affairs Minister. I have a question regarding India's foreign policy. You mentioned once that India's foreign policy is a delicate act of keeping multiple balls in the air without letting any of them drop. This seems to be an excellent metaphor for India's approach to issue-based alliance in diplomacy. Given the current global uncertainties with challenges like COVID-19 and various disputes, do you believe India should continue its traditional approach of loose alliance in diplomacy? Or do you think India should strive to form strong alliance to enhance its international standing? Thank you.
Okay, let me give final chance to Professor Han, who contributed a lot to the betterment of the relationship between Korea and India. So I cannot, please.
Minister Jaishankar, it's really a great pleasure to meet you personally. I have been involved during the Korea-India strategic dialogue from 2010 through 2021 until Foreign Minister Yoon Jong-un take over. I have the three specific questions. First, just one. Well, okay, you emphasized the strategic importance of the supply chain diversity, and I understand that in 2022, India, Australia, Japan worked out a supply chain resilience initiative. My question is that Korea is also very much eager to diversify our supply chain network. So I think Korea is perfect candidate to join, the initiative. Or can Korea join that initiative? If so, under what conditions? Okay. And just one more question. Micron technology received a heck of the incentive from the Indian federal and the state government, amounting, I think, the 70% of total investment cost. My question is, if Samsung or SK are interested in investing in the semiconductor area, can both companies receive the similar incentive as the Indian government provided to Micron technology?
Just for curiosity, what was your third question? Okay. In a way, I think the first question and this question have something in common. What do we really need for economic security? I think it depends on the country. It depends on the situation. I want you to think back of the COVID period. Okay. What did the COVID period teach all of us? It taught us that health can become the most important factor in our lives. And if we did not have resources at which we could access at a time of difficulty, as a society, as a country, we were in very deep trouble. So if you had asked me this question in 2020 or 21, maybe even 22, I would have said health is the answer. Okay. But at that time, in India, we did a complete lockdown because we didn't have the health preparedness to deal with the pandemic. So what we did was we did a lockdown and we very rapidly sought to scale up our preparations. Now, when we did a lockdown, some of our neighbors had a different problem of economic security. You'll be surprised to know, in the Gulf, almost every day, there are enormous movements of fresh food from India to the Gulf. So when we locked down, they suddenly had a food security problem. Okay. So after the COVID, when we went, and by the way, we made an exception for them. Even though we had a lockdown, we kept the air movement of food to the Gulf going, which they appreciate very much. So if we go to the Gulf and ask them, so tell me which part of economic security is very important for you, they would have said, that period food security is very important. Now, things have become a little bit more normal. So what are we discussing today? We are looking at, critical technologies. Today there is so much talk about, that's why I come to semiconductors and chips, because in a way they are the basis of our daily lives. That here it is security because for two reasons. Without it, we are very less, we are inefficient. And we have put so much of ourselves onto those platforms that has also become part of security. So it's, I would say across the world today, what COVID has done, it has made most countries, certainly somewhat, I would say, middle and larger size countries, very sensitive to the fact that very basic, the core issues which really matter to you, we must have some ability on our own to manage. And to my mind, what it has done is it has raised basic questions about that old model of globalization, which had begun in the 1990s and which more or less continued, you can say, till the COVID. So people would question that today. I mean, even in Europe today. Europe today, which was the most fervent advocate of globalization, is today very, very much obsessed with strategic autonomy. And for them, strategic autonomy is actually economic autonomy, in a way. So what can India and Korea do? I would say in those areas which are our strengths. If in those areas we make each other stronger, and we also contribute to, because look, we are countries who our history is not a selfish history. We have always, whatever we could do for the rest of the world, we have tried to do. So if to the extent we can work together and our contribution individually and as a partnership, we can do to the world, I think it would make a difference. And here, this range of new technologies, because Korea is very much regarded as a leader in many of these areas. I mean, it could be chips, it could be bio, it could be renewables, it could be nuclear. I mean, you look at everything you are good at. We look at things where we feel we are good at, where we have something, different to bring to the table. I think that to me is where I see, I mean, somebody says, okay, next 10 years, lay out a vision of our relationship. I mean, to me, those intersections, those partnerships are very much the future. So with that, I'll jump to the third question, because it's a very good example that I think what the professor was referring to was a project by this company called Micron. I think there's a Korean company called Semtech involved in the plant as well. And the answer, Professor, is that we have a scheme called production-linked incentives. So in certain designated areas, if foreign companies are making, or in fact companies, even domestic ones, are making new investment which will significantly raise national capacities, then they are entitled to incentives. So the plant, the project in question got those. Each one is approved individually, but there is a industry, I mean we didn't make a policy for Micron. We made a policy for the sector. So if somebody else qualifies in that sector, in fact last week We just approved a fab, a semiconductor fab between one of our Indian companies along with a Taiwanese company. So they had a collaboration, very close, the same state where Micron is setting up a factory. And a lot of the incentives are applicable to that as well. So our hope is very much that, in terms of, this is all part of increasing manufacturing and I would say national capabilities in India, obviously because it's in our interest, but also because we think today that the world, it is very risky, dangerous for the world if production is too concentrated, if production is located in only a few geographies, however good or bad. I'm making no judgment on the geography, but it's a risk which any of us would take, that would take, which we would counter. You don't want too many assets, too much production, too much dependence on a narrow source. So that is a big lesson from the COVID, how to de-risk the global economy. And I would put that as different from what may happen in a competition between countries. That's a different dynamic. This is a common dynamic in which 200 countries of the world have a similar interest. The other question, this delicate act that you spoke about, in a way, for us, it is something we have grown up over the years doing. We were doing it more defensively before. We are doing it more confidently. So it's like, walking on a trapeze, so the trapeze was here, the trapeze is here, now the trapeze is there. But if the more you do it, in a way, the more skilled you are at it. But your point, you said, are you better off with loose alliance, or are you better off with strong alliance which will enhance your global standing? I don't agree that strong alliances enhance global standing and loose alliances detract. On the contrary, I'll give you an example. Take the G20. Okay? At the beginning of our presidency of the G20, people were actually worried whether we will be able to get an agreement at the end of it all. And we had two problems. One was the Ukraine conflict and the Western countries and Russia issue. The other was a development issue, that a lot of the global south had concerns and whether the developed countries would agree to it. Now the fact that we as I said, we have different tied to one group. I think it would have been difficult to get the 20 to actually come around. So we do see today India in many ways as playing a very useful role, as a kind of a bridging country which is able to contribute, address problems. And I think unfortunately the state of the world requires such services.
So now floor is given to MC.
Once again, thank you, Minister and Chancellor, and also our audience for your great remarks and questions. 그럼 마지막으로 신봉길 외교협회장이시자 전 주 인도 대사님께서 감사 말씀을 전달해 주시겠습니다. Now, we would like to welcome Ambassador Shim Bongil, a current president of the Korean Council of Foreign Relations and former Korean ambassador to India, for his vote of thanks. So please give him a big round of applause.
First of all, I would like to thank Dr. Jaishankar for delivering such an insightful speech on India-Korea partnership in the Indo-Pacific. Dr. Jaishankar has served his country almost 4 decades as a professional diplomat and is well known as the great thinker and also a visionary strategist. Also, his father was such an important, famous strategist. Everyone knows, which is a very rare quality for a diplomat with bureaucratic background. As it was, I had an honor to serve as a Korean ambassador to India during his term as both as a foreign secretary and also Tata president of global affairs and external minister. I and my wife had a real honor to have a great relationship with him and his wife, Kyoko. After ending my term in July 2021, I returned back to Korea with this book, The India Way. It's Dr. Bakchari also mentioned about this. Actually, whenever I write articles and also make speeches on India, then usually I quoted a lot from this book. See, all the important terms like multi-alignment, also somebody said issue-based alliance, all are here in this book. This became a bestseller. I recommend you to buy some and present it to the aspiring diplomats. Your Excellency came to Seoul at the right time and right place. Currently, the whole world faces many difficult and complicated issues, and Korean Peninsula is no exception. Your thought and perspectives have provided valuable insights and given us a broader understanding of the opportunities and challenges that lie ahead for our two countries and the world. Thank you again for your valuable contribution and also for gracing us with your presence. In closing, I also would like to thank Korean National Diplomatic Academy and the Chancellor Dr. Bakchari, Professor Cheung-gi, and also Ambassador Kumar for organizing this event so successfully. My compliments also goes to all the participants here, including the aspiring diplomats, and also my colleagues who are already retired from the active diplomacy. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ambassador. Please remain seated. Now I would like to invite Minister Jaishankar and Chancellor Park for a quick photo. 귀빈 여러분들께서는 잠시 앉아서 기다려주시면 감사하겠습니다. We kindly ask all invited guests to please remain seated until the minister leaves the venue. Please give them a big round of applause.